If you're interested in having me help you design and build your tiny house, you can contact me at tinyhousecustoms@gmail.com, or you can check out my website and you can find me there at tinyhousecustoms.com. Although I haven't built a tiny house yet, I do have 10 years of experience in residential construction and remodeling. If you're watching this on Facebook, make sure you check out our Facebook page, Tiny House Customs, where I post helpful tips and suggestions to help you build your tiny house. There's two terms we're going to need to know when building the walls on our tiny house. The first is plates. Plates are the horizontal pieces of a wall which create the length of the wall. There's usually two top plates and one bottom plate. And studs, the vertical pieces of wood which run from the top plate to the bottom plate and create the wall height. Tiny house walls appear to be just one wall, but to be built correctly, it's actually broken into three different sections. There's the living room section, which is underneath the 12 pitch. There's the kitchen and bathroom, which the loft sits on top of, as well as the loft section, which is underneath the 5 pitch. So I'm going to start with the living room section. So if you want to legally travel on any U.S. road without permits, you need to stay under 13'6". To figure wall heights, you need to minus everything that adds to its height, everything from roofing to the trailer. I know my trailer is roughly 22 inches. If you plan on building your deck on top of your trailer, you'll need to minus the thickness of the 2x material you plan on using, be it a 2x4 or a 2x6. I plan on incorporating my joists in with my trailer, which will ultimately add headroom to my loft, so I don't need to worry about that number. I'll also minus the thickness of my floor plywood, which should be at least 3/4 of an inch. Whatever you do, don't use 1/2 inch plywood on your flooring. You should always use 3/4 or more. Now that I've figured out my rafters, I need to figure out what I'm putting on top of my roof, which is going to add to my overall height. I plan on using a metal roofing system. If you look at this picture, you can see that I'm adding a 1/2 inch plywood to the top of the roof, as well as about 1.5 inches for the roofing, for a total of roughly 2 inches. So we need to remember that that angle that the roof is coming off is going to be on a run angle, and we need to know the diagonal of that run. So if we enter in the 2 inches into our run and we hit 45 of the pitch, it'll give us 2 3/4. I know my total rise on a 12 pitch is going to be 3'8½", so I can minus that number. Now keep in mind, that number is from the point right here to where my seat cut begins. And if you remember in my last video, we had added 1 3/4 to that number where my seat cut was going to be. So to recap, I have 22 inches for the trailer, 3/4 inches for the plywood, 1 3/4 for my seat cut, 3'8½", plus 2 3/4. If I minus all those numbers from 13'6", I'll get 7'6¼ So if you remember, we have 2 top plates and 1 bottom plate, each equaling 1.5 inches for a total of 4.5 inches. So if I minus that 4.5 inches from that 7'6¼ I'll get 7'1 3/4 for the studs that are located in the living room area. Now let's figure the wall height for the kitchen and bathroom area. So I figured I feel pretty comfortable with a ceiling height of 6'6". I just held the tape measure like this. I don't feel like I'm going to hit my head. So again, I'll minus the 3 plates, which is 4.5 inches, from the 6'6", which is going to be my total wall height, and I'll get 6'1½". The difference between the 12 pitch wall and the 5 pitch wall is 2'2". I got that number by figuring the rise of the 12 pitch, which we know is 3'8½", and then I figured the rise of the 5 pitch, which is 1'6½", and if I minus the 1'6½ from the 3'8½", it'll give me a difference of 2'2". So if I add the wall height of the living room to the 2'2", I'll get my total wall height for where my loft is. So that wall height was 7'6¼ plus 2'2" gives me 9'8¼ Now minus the kitchen wall of 6'6", the joist of 3.5 inches, the 3/4 inch decking, and you'll get 2'10", which is from the floor of your loft to the top of your wall. And then again, you're just going to minus the 3 plates of 4.5 inches from the 2'10", and you'll get 2'5½". So here are all my wall heights and stud lengths. My living room walls will be 7'6¼ with a stud length of 7'1 3/4. My kitchen walls will be 6'6" with a stud length of 6'1½, and my loft walls will be 2'10" with a stud length of 2'5½. If you watched my last video on figuring rafters on a tiny house, you'll remember that I made my seat cut 1 3/4 on both my 5 pitch and my 12 pitch. Now since we didn't minus for our ridge yet, theoretically, both our 5 and 12 pitch will end up planing into each other. So what's going to happen is our 5 pitch is going to come up and stick past the ridge about 5/8 of an inch. Now you can see that this 12 pitch and this 5 pitch would end up planing out in the center of the ridge, which would mean that all the way across the top of your roof would be the exact same level. There won't be a drop from the 12 pitch to the 5 pitch. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful and informative, make sure you hit that thumbs up and hit the subscribe button so you won't miss any of my future videos. Thanks. Alright, let's talk and stuff. Let's put words into sentences. I'm going to put that picture on there, so it's going to be like right here and right here, okay? I'm not like Channel 6 News. I don't got the screen over there I can look at. What did you write? Why don't you just read it you wrote? You spend all the time writing and you don't even use it? Peanut, I need you to be quiet. Peanut, you are not going to whine in this video. You're not going to be in this video at all, okay? Alright. No talking. So if you remember, we have 2 top plates and 1 bottom plate. Hello, Peanut. You want some kitchen? Some loving? Okay. Guys, you're not loving. Okay. We have 2 top plates. Peanut, get out of the picture. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to. Peanut. And my single bottom plate, which would be, you know, something. It would be a number. I'm sure it would be. Alright, now let's figure out the studs for the walls. Now let's figure out the studs that are located where the kitchen and bathroom are located. Now let's figure out the stud length for now let's figure the studs. Now let's figure the wall height for the kitchen and bath area. I think I nailed that on the first try. That's confusing, and I'm confusing you. I apologize for confusing you.